Hello, hello, hello. Pardon me if I'm still figuring some stuff out here. I had to fully reboot my computer, as in all the kernels crashed. So I had to change OSs over the last week, which was fun. I learned a lot about NVIDIA drivers, which never the place you want to be. You never want to be in a place where you have to be learning about NVIDIA drivers. Check the audio on this, make sure everything's looking good. Considering that part of these issues meant that I had to do the fun thing of rebuilding my entire OBS profile because it didn't save for some reason. Let me find my channel. He's like going incognito or something. Find my channel. Okay, testing. Like going incognito or something. Find my channel. Okay, testing. Like going incognito or something. Find my channel. Oh, this is gonna start looping. Okay. I pulled up a different monitor. Forgot that I do have desktop audio capture up. That's yeah. All right. Don't do that again. Good point. Hopefully that doesn't cause you any problems. Okay. Yeah. Please let me know if there's any audio issues. It sounds like it's fine, but it's always hard to tell. So between the new mic, the new setup, and just everything generally, it's a little difficult. I'm actually gonna mute my audio capture and just monitor real quick just to make sure that everything's working out fine. Okay, that sounded good. Should be good to get started then. So I'm starting a little later than I wished because I forgot I'd set up OBS streams. I've been dealing with these computer issues all week, and I wanted to do this stream at any point during this week, but here we are. So this is what we're going to be doing. So on the docket for today, we're going to be doing a PowerPoint that I made about selecting my next deck to start prepping out for RTN season and just for learning generally. And then maybe get in a game or two, see what we can do about that. Looks like everything is set up and reading properly. I am going to try and edit this together for an actual video to put up. So I'm going to try and make this professional and presentable as much as can be. But with that, let's get going. So, selecting my next deck, a study. The big thing that I'm wanting to kind of accomplish with this is to figure out the next deck that I'm going to be playing. So why am I doing this? I'm a Fang player, and Fang is a great deck. I love playing Fang. Very powerful deck inherently, does a lot of incredibly strong things. And generally, I like playing dual build warrior as well. I'm building out Hatchet's Kasai right now. I like playing some Draw Swords Kasai. Just really good to play that kind of game plan. I'm also enjoying Illusionist, but I'm not a Prism fan. So no Dromai, no Enigma makes me pretty much a warrior player right now. But the current matchup spread is rough. This picture right here is a picture from my last PQ. This PQ had about, I don't remember the exact amount. I think it was 35 people, 34, somewhere in like that 30 to 35 range. And as we can see here, I'll talk about this more a little later, but we have Verdance, bad matchup. Syndra, unfavored matchup. Dio, pretty unfavored matchup. Gravy, good matchup. We like that one. We like that one. Kasai, okay, good matchup. KO, even-ish, mostly even, kind of slightly unfavored because they can high roll a little better. Acilio, bad. Pleiades, kind of for fun. Prism, the most coin flip matchup in existence. And then we have to start getting down to the one-ofs of like Arachne and Florian to start finding good matchups. And I don't know if any change is going to happen before RTN season that's going to allow for me to feel comfortable bringing Fang. Because I would love to bring him. If we bring down Verdance a little bit, Syndra gets touched a little bit, and Gravy probably gets touched at that point too. But if we start bringing down the level to where things can compete a little bit more, I will be very happy to bring Kasai Fang, or if Mon 3 is out by then, bring that. But I don't know if that's going to happen, and I don't want to hedge my bets on that, considering that the process of prepping a deck is longer than like the 3-ish weeks that I'll probably have between the ban list and when RTN season starts. And importantly, this part's very important, I want to win an RTN. The way that things are working out right now in the meta is that there's like the top 3 decks, Verdant, Syndra, and Gravy, that are the triangle, and like any person who wants to win an event should be on that deck. But if you're on like an armory level or lower, any deck can win right now, which is why it's really strange. So if you don't want to win an event that's like an RTN or a PQ level event or more than that, then it's kind of like just play what you want and what you think is good. But I want to win an RTN, so I got to start figuring this out. Oh, and final problem, I don't want to play Verdance. Verdance is the easy answer here because it's the easiest. It's not the easiest to pick up, but it's very easy to pick up, very strong, very flexible. You slam Fellings and you slam Plows and you slam Arcane. And there's some depth there. It's very oversimplifying, but it's not too difficult to get like 70 to 80% out of the deck. And I just do not enjoy the play style that it incentivizes. So how are we going to be evaluating this? What kind of criteria are we looking at for this? So I've separated this down. Some of this was based on Majin Bei's videos of introducing the heroes. This is going to be kind of like somewhat based in like introducing these heroes and creating a power scale for them, but also creating my own basis to evaluate it on. So for those kind of more objective things, we have the initial difficulty and the difficulty to master. So this would be like initial difficulty is like getting up to like that point where you're getting like 70 to 80% out. You might be able to take down an armory on it. And then difficulty master is like the months-long process of making sure you can win skill matchups, really getting your matchups down, understanding the small key interactions, how to play into different things, what you're looking to pitch that, like those very in-depth concepts, difficulty of getting there. I listed the triangle meta here because the whole hypothesis of this is how are we doing into the triangle meta? So if you don't have a good matchup spread into the triangle meta, you're probably not fitting the category I'm looking at for this right now. Cost, I also don't want to break my bank because I am probably going to be buying every card in the new set because I will likely want to play all the new heroes. So not looking to spend $1 million right now. I like perhaps the most objective of all the categories, or subjective of all the categories. It's how much I like the deck. That's it. This is not based off me playing a lot of games with it. This is just conceptually, how much am I enjoying this? Money Waster is a little bit of a weird one because it's kind of a weird subjective thing. It's, do I expect bans to happen for this hero? That's going to mean that it no longer functions for the purpose I want it to. Or are they going to LL soon with no good carryover for the pieces I would be buying? And then Chancellor's Fang is not like a summary of the above, but it's kind of like my idea of, based on these kind of things, if I was to take this deck, regardless of whether I like it or not at the costing, if I was to take this deck, what are the chances that I will do better than just bringing Fang, a deck that I'm very practiced in? Also, one more note on the cost. This is based on my current collection. So a very important note, I own cards like Riches of Tribledani, Authority of Ataya, Tunic, things like that. So this is just based on that collection. Clean off my glasses here. So first, we'll talk about Fang, the exception. I am going to move my camera here slightly. This is the only slide where I should have to do this. Fang, put it simply, is my GOAT. I love this dude. Fang is like, not my first deck that I ever played, but it's the first deck that I like fully chose and invested in, and really got in depth into building and thinking about and decision making processes, and like really trying to hone my expertise. The warrior side of him emphasizes a lot of skill expression. All warriors are playing by very thin margins. You have tools to deal with almost anything. Very skill-oriented deck. That's going to be emphasized throughout. And the cool thing about Fang is that, you don't want to be doing something too fair. Because if you're doing something too fair, you end up in like the Guardian space where you're not able to keep up. Fang does broken things. Like when you look at him post 3 fealty, he's like one of the best decks in the game. Block 9 and send a 1-card 5 that resets Dynamos is insane. And being able to like just take 4 random cards and convert them to 16 to 20 damage is just insane. Really broken deck in terms of like stealing power level, not regarding any meta situations. He also fits my playstyle perfectly. I kind of summarize it here. This is not fully in depth, but he does a couple things I like. One, engine building. I love it when a deck is able to create this kind of end goal that I have to work towards, and then put in, I think the way I've described it before is you put in inputs to the engine in order to output the broken thing. So a lot of Fang is, one, getting online, obviously, but once you're online, it's a lot of planning around, like, I have freedom to use these cards however I want. How do I maximize my value on this turn while making sure I don't break my engine later? So for an example of how I did this badly, I talked about this in a previous stream, but in a previous PQ, I made a decision to play out a Second Blaze Headlong when I saw that my Dorinthia opponent didn't have any D reacts for the turn. So I knew I could force through the damage. And that play lost me the game. Because it meant that on that turn, I didn't end on an arsenal, and that snowballed until 3 or 4 turns later when I lost all my fealty because I hit a hand that didn't have any Draconic cards. And I was on 2 fealty, I wasn't online, and it was like I just had to go down there, and I got put out of the game at that point. That kind of decision-making really entices me. He also plays with hidden information. This is just a warrior thing, but I love the aspect of holding cards in hand and concealing information. A lot of fun of exploring the depth of Fang has been figuring out at what points to play my cards so that my opponent is the most scared. So like sometimes it's correct to play a front pump, send a dagger, and because they're scared of the cards that are potentially in my hand, they'll block differently. And then sometimes against different opponents, I'll keep those front pumps in hand, swing the first dagger, then break the chain and put them on the second one in order to kind of mix them up like that. Playing around with that hidden information and playing that guessing game of forcing my opponent and me to play around with this information is really a really fun aspect of the game to me. He's also flexible. He can go on the defensive. You can build him more defensively. Even in the more aggressive builds, you're very capable of just blocking 9 and sending 5. But you're also capable of going very aggressive once you're online. You're never going to be like a Syndra, but you can send some ridiculous turns, especially when you start mixing in like Savor Bloodshed, Red Twist in turn, things like that. And he intends to make us both play Flesh and Blood as JW intended, James White himself. Warriors play the game of Flesh and Blood. That is what they do. They give you numbers and they tell you, can you do the numbers thing? It's great. Problem. All of this stuff is great, but none of this works when a deck is able to kind of go over all of this. So you notice there's an almost here, there's an intends, there's a lot of caveats here. If they don't care about what we're doing and they just go, okay, 6 arcane, we have a bit of a problem. Verdance is weird because despite her being a wizard, she is actually not close to not being a bad matchup because the earth side of her forces her to play in a certain way that is very favorable for us. But Scour is a card that exists. I won't diverge into a rant on Scour here, but that card is just devastating in the matchup. It just puts you behind so far on tempo that she's able to walk you down and then Stormstriders you. When she doesn't have that, it's a really cool skill-intensive game. When she does have Scour, it is devastating. If Verdance gets hit, Specifically, would love to see a Scour ban. But if Verdance just kind of falls out of the meta, the matchup could swing. Because, like I said, it is close to being reasonable to try and win. But right now, it's not really a matchup that I feel is capable of being outskilled reliably. Like I've been saying, I'm like roughly 50-50 into Verdance's IRL, just because I've played this matchup so much and like tested it and sideboarded for it. I've sacrificed a lot of my other prep just to try and make this matchup as good as possible. So I've been able to do that. But if my goal is to win one of these events, I can't just rely on going, okay, I will just outskill my opponents throughout the entire thing when they have cards that will just win them the game if they're able to play it at all. So I just don't think that's feasible. And if you want to look at the matchup spread, it's not only just dodge Verdance. Prism is a 50-50 coin flip that I think is Prism favored slightly because they can just go ALS and you lose the game. They have fun tricks like Halo when you attack an angel and you cry, and flipping Light of Soul. A lot of fun things that you can't high roll as easily, but it's a very coin flippy matchup. Dio and Syndra are unfavored to slightly unfavored. They just kind of kill you before you're able to equalize on value a lot of the time. Kano and Acilio are lunch tier. They just do things on a scale that you cannot comprehend or deal with. You just do not have the tools to deal with these matchups. Acilio is like a little closer because he doesn't just like blow you out of the stratosphere consistently. Kano is like potentially like a 90-10 matchup. It's pretty bad. And then for the good matchups, we have Kasai, Gravy, Mario. They're good decks. Like this matchup spread isn't like too bad. But the fact that the big three are Gravy, Syndra, Verdance. Verdance is really bad. Syndra isn't great. And Gravy is your good matchup. But Gravy can still high roll you because the way the current meta works out is that Gravy can still high roll you. And Verdance and Syndra don't have to do that much to be able to beat you. So it's just not something I can really feasibly bring into this coming meta. Added a little note here for Kasai. I mentioned it earlier. Cool deck, both versions. Great. I own all the cards. It's not going to be in this because I basically have everything anyway. And Kasai kind of suffers from a lot of the same issues as Fang. I think Kasai's a little bit more favored into this meta. She's a little worse into Gravy, but still favored. And she's a lot better into Syndra, and arguably better into Verdance. I know her and problem is her Verdance matchup still bad, but arguably it's better. I've heard mixed things on that. I might be wrong on that one. But it's fun. I'm playing it right now. I'm acquiring the cards, but that's not going to be considered for the purposes of this presentation. Now we're going to move my camera back over to the slot it belongs in. And we'll begin. Mario, the warrior of the assassin class. So I gave Mario a 3.5 out of 5 initial difficulty. I've been told this might be over-exaggerating a little bit. But I have played a little bit of Mario, and my problem with them is that the lines are incredibly unintuitive to me. I don't know if that's necessarily generically true, but things like managing my daggers, knowing when I need to flick or not, knowing when to swing with my daggers even, like when I should pitch into them versus sending some other attacks, knowing sequencing, knowing when to arsenal, when to use shred effects, just like a bunch of those things are like super unintuitive to me. And Mario's also difficult to master for a lot of those reasons. Deciding when to keep your opponent marked versus popping the mark to get an effect, knowing how to navigate some of these longer matchups where you can't just like force through damage and disrupt them. It's a very skill intensive deck. The matchup spread that we're looking at is all of these are sourced from feedback as well. Please correct me if you in the comments if you think that there's a different take on these. I've been told that the Verdance matchup is roughly 50-50. It's a pretty skill matchup slash depending on the order of cards on top of their deck, but we don't talk about that. The Gravy matchup is not great, and the Syndra matchup is pretty good. A lot of these make sense to me personally. You disrupt Syndra, you can't really play your game plan into Gravy. You don't have the damage and modularity of Warriors. And with Verdance, you're kind of just you're hoping to compete against the Earth thing. Cost is about 350. Some of the expensive cards are kind of transferred over from Fang. A lot of cards got cheaper recently because of the Bondsman and Assassins kind of falling off. So not too bad cost-wise, relatively. I like 4 out of 5. This is a cool deck. The only part I don't like is that the transformations are random, because I hate the RNG aspect of like, oh, I rolled the good transform 3 times this game, so I won, or I rolled trapdoor 3 times, so I lose. But other than that, very skill-intensive deck, very cool deck. Plays with a lot of those warrior type things where it's like you kind of have a little bit of setup thing. You have the modularity with your weapons, constantly having stuff on board. Very cool deck. So I put the Chancellor's Fang at about 3 out of 5. I think this matchup spread is a little bit better. Also has a lot of game into Dio and some of the other decks that are kind of around the fringes. Game into Acilio. But still has some bad matchups in the meta. And the difficulty makes me a little more hesitant to pick it up in this specific scenario. It gets a little bit of brownie points for being a deck that I would be actively excited to play, even if the meta does shift and things like that. But that's kind of where I'm sitting at. Break for tea real quick. A lot like this. It's hard on the throat. Well, next up, we have the Boogeyman in the room. I will caveat this. This is the only hero from the top 3 triangle that I put in here. Potentially Blue Line Syndra should be in here because I do like the Blue Line Syndra deck. I just do not like the Red Line deck. But I digress. Gravy Bones. Initial difficulty, 4 out of 5. Before people start coming for me. The baseline Gravy thing of I play attacks, I set up ally, and I swing ally at you, now deal with my board state, isn't like the absolute worst thing to learn. You can get to like that kind of decent level decently fast. It is still very hard. A lot of decision points in this deck. Messing up one thing can be really bad, and it's really important for salvaging lines. And difficulty master 5 out of 5. I mean, this one's self-evident. One of the hardest decks in the game right now to master. A very rewarding deck to master, but still incredibly difficult. The matchup spread, though, Verdance, it's looking good. Yeah, appreciate you tuning in. I will be editing this down and hopefully posting a full version later. But yeah, the matchup spread, Verdance is looking pretty good. Gravy is a mirror, so just outskill them. Teehee. And Syndra isn't great, but the biggest problem that we all have with Gravy all around is that the matchup's not great, but it is playable somehow. On paper, this matchup shouldn't be playable, but it is because Gravy things. The cost of the deck, it is $400, a little bit more than the previous one, so it's a little bit of an investment. But barring some like massive changes, this is another deck where it's just like very cool. I love gold, playing around with the gold mechanic, period. Being able to draw cards, use gold as a resource, deciding when to pay into gold versus using it, versus stacking it up to try and go through in like a late game big dig turn, or even using gold as ramp, kind of, pitching a blue into it, drawing a blue, going +1 resources. Very skill intensive, lots of decision points. I like it a lot. It's cool. Money Waster is 2.5 out of 5. It has the point multiplier. And spoiler for the next slides, can be transferred to Marlin, who is not going to LL or receive bans. But Gravy theoretically could get shot down in the next VNR. Very possible. And Transfer Fang 4 out of 5. I know that is being kind of hypocritical given the difficulty scale, but I do think that for a lot of Gravy's matchups, you don't need to be that good in order to get the most out of it. So it's kind of a little debatable on that probably, but I think it's a deck that I would really enjoy. I do love me playing some blues, and it's not, not the worst deck to try and pick up, even if it is one of the hardest decks in the game. KO. KO's a hero. So I put his initial difficulty at 1.5 out of 5. Sorry, KO players, but Fab is a baseline hard game. Flesh and Blood is hard to play, but Wild Ride into Bear Fangs isn't like, that hard to figure out. I'm not having to debate about the board state or figure out these crazy lines. It's usually more so just figuring out, like, am I blocking with these? Am I playing these? Am I figuring out how to Arsenal? Do I want to keep this next turn? Basic Fab fundamentals. KO is a very fundamentals focused hero. Difficulty Master, I put 2 out of 5. I think there is a deeper level of like looking at the statistics, really going into that, knowing exactly when you should be rolling scabs, keeping track of your decks so you know when you should be betting on random hits off the top and not, things like that. But ultimately not too hard to get up and running. Also, these also get lowered a little bit too off the fact that sometimes you go turn 1 Blood Rush Velo, discard Beast Within into hit, and the game ends. And sometimes you have to roll scabs and you roll a 6 and then you play a 24 power turn. A thing that happens, Matchup thread is interesting. This might be completely wrong. My understanding is that the Verdance matchup is like, I don't want to say it's necessarily a skill matchup, but it's pretty heavily dependent on your top cards versus her top cards, a lot of draw order, and also skill, because every game of Flesh and Blood has a lot of skill involved, but a lot of it is also draw order here. The Gravy matchup is decent. You just bash his face in before he can get anything set up. The Syndra matchup, my current understanding is that it's Syndra favored, but very volatile. Sometimes Syndra will roll you, sometimes you'll roll her, and then sometimes you're both at 2 life, desperately trying to get across the finish line. So not 100% certain on that. The cost is 300, 350. This is a little more rough, but the gem packs have been kind. I pulled the Savage Sash. I have 2 of the Swing Bigs because I top 8'd 2 PQs. So I have like a decent amount of the brute stuff somehow, just from pure luck. So it's not actually too much of an investment. I like 2 out of 5. I haven't played the deck, so some of this is conjecture, but just what I've seen and what I've heard, it doesn't seem like a deck that's fully up my alley, but I do think it's like a pretty decent pick for the upcoming season. Money Waster, 3.5 out of 5. This hero is so close to LLing, and it's good enough now to where it's like, I don't think it's going to drop off significantly. It's probably gone some point early to mid next year. And there's not a ton of carryover. I can carry it over to RKO, who's I find a little bit more compelling than ADKO, but not 100% certain on that. Chance vs. Fang, I put it at a 4 out of 5 again. This one is balanced by, I think, the volatility and the high roll potential. This should probably be like 4.5. But I think the amount that I like the deck is going to impede it because I'm not going to obsessively grind over it. That could change if I try it out and like it. I probably should have clarified. I am going to be trying out all of these decks, hopefully on stream for most of these, but some of them probably just getting some games in. But yeah, looking to have some guests on to kind of help me figure out some of these decks, and otherwise just play some games and see what I like. So we'll see. That number could fluctuate a lot. They call it a roll of the dice. But yeah. Oh boy. Marlin. This was a recent addition to the PowerPoint slide. Thank you, Taylor Crawford. Thank you, Aurora from Flesh and Bad. Y'all are prophets, and love y'all. The deck is just cool. So I put an initial difficulty of 2.5 out of 5. I know there's some debate over the difficulty of Marlin. I kind of sorted this out as like the baseline to just be like sending some strong harpoons, sending some strong goldfins, getting some disruption, all that. Is difficult because it's the ranger stuff. You have all that involved, but it's not the worst to try and get up to speed with. I think that the difficulty to master is kind of where a lot of that comes in. Again, with gold being so multimodal, and arguably, I'd say even potentially being more important than in Gravy because of how essential it is to, you're kind of using gold every turn. In Gravy, you don't have to, like, you can stockpile gold and then use it on later turns. Marlin, a lot of times you're cracking for a goldfin or trying to draw into something on almost every turn. So a lot of skill expression in the gold, a lot of skill expression in deck building, and just a pretty difficult deck overall. Matchup spreads, again, these are not mine, so grain of salt. But we're looking at about a 50-50 into Verdance. This might be a little bit of copium, but you can generally kind of get away with it a lot. Obviously D-Reacts hurt, but if you're able to play that kind of grindy game against them, they don't really have a great way to get cards out of their hands. So you can get the Goldfish decently often, especially since there aren't a lot of action cards. Red and blues should be hitting often. Attack actions and non-attack actions both can get value here. So theoretically have game into them. Gravy, not great. You don't do enough damage to kill them before the allies become a problem. You are pertinently vulnerable to Chum. It's not looking great. And Syndra, favored, not amazingly favored, but pretty favored. You get to disrupt the aggro deck. And sometimes you get rolled, but you get to disrupt the aggro deck. Cost 350, I already own a Riches. I probably should have mentioned that for the Gravy one. I already own Riches and Ataya, and I probably wouldn't be playing I for this. But it's mostly just picking up the Pirate cards. I like 4 out of 5. Rangers are sick. Love Rangers. Wish we had more of them in CC. Praying for the next set that we get a lighter Shadow Ranger, because that would be sick. So get to play Ranger. And also get to pick up some Ranger staples before they inevitably go up when the next Ranger hits. Money Waster 1 out of 5. Marlin has, I think, 6 LL points. And if she somehow gets stuff banned out or whatever, it's like there's transference to Gravy and some to Ranger, but this hero is going to be around for a while. And Chancellor Fang 3.5 out of 5. I think this deck is still being developed is the big issue. It didn't really undergo... obviously people have been experimenting with it, but it hasn't really been under scrutiny until maybe the last month or so in the big public eye. So I think it's a little bit less developed, and that's going to make it a little bit harder of a learning process for me. But it gets massive points for being a deck I like, and also for covering up a lot of the matchups that Warriors are bad against. Because if Warriors are weak to decks that are able to ignore their game plan, you play Marlin and force them to not be able to ignore your game plan because you take all their cards. So a lot of points for the girl here. Asilio, the hard deck. 5 out of 5 across the board because it's Asilio. This is the hardest deck in the game. Every time I think I understand something about this deck, I am immediately proven wrong so incredibly fast. So many decision points, so many different involved things, just an incredibly difficult deck to play. Matchup spread is actually pretty good into this meta. I mean, if you look at the reps for a lot of the most recent events, you're going to see Asilio in that kind of, definitely not in the big 3, and by a pretty good margin, but the deck on the outskirts, you wouldn't be surprised to maybe see in a top 8. You got a 55-45 into Verdance. This is sourced from some good Asilio players. It's getting to this point because a lot of the Verdances are teching the negate cards and Aetherize and stuff like that, and that's just crazy. But theoretically, it should be a decent matchup. Pretty good matchup in the grave here, able to clear allies really easily, send massive stuff at face, force them to cry. And Syndra, not a good matchup, but sometimes you Asilio them. That's the advantage of Asilio, is no matter how bad the matchup is, sometimes you Asilio them. You draw a Gone in a Flash with 4 instants on a Greed's turn, and you're like, all right, I will do 56. Thumbs up. $300 cost. It's just a cheap deck. I already have Tunic, and the rest of the cards are pretty cheap. So the part that I like here is caveated. I have been a Yu-Gi-Oh player since 2013, probably before that, but 2013 is my recollection. And Asilio is just a stupid combo deck that is also a tempo deck at the same time, and it's so cool. It's so cool to see Asilio just doing the Asilio thing. My problem with Asilio is it kind of ignores a lot of the things that I actually enjoy about the game. I feel like for several matchups, the goal of the matchup is to kind of find combo. You'll hear it sometimes when you're listening to Yuto play on stream or things like that, where he's like, all right, this is a matchup where I'm going to cycle my hand as quickly as possible to find Gone in a Flash and enough instants to combo, and then I will combo and I will win the game off that combo, which isn't really engaging with the aspects of the game that I personally enjoy. So the I like it is with a caveat. It's with an asterisk. Not a money waster. This hero is not LLing soon. It's a good hero, but it's not LLing soon. And I put the chances a little bit lower than Gravy because I think this deck is harder to pick up than Gravy and worse into the meta. So it's just not the greatest pick for what I'm trying to get out of the game. And then finally, Pleiades. I probably don't need to read all of this because the meme kind of sums it up. This is my biggest cope pile. I truly think that this deck is good. But unfortunately, as it says, the game is played on the playmat, and as played on the playmat, I think I am something like 3-15 on this deck in like my limited testing, which it just is not great. So I'm gonna cope and say that it's just a 5 out of 5 difficulty deck across the board, similar to Acilio, which it really does feel that way when you're playing it. I don't know if it's just because the deck is bad, or if it's actually hard. It's probably a mix of both. But theoretically, I think that it has a decent matchup spread. Verdance doesn't have a lot of good tools to play into confidence. You don't really have amazing disruption into her, but you really don't need it. If she's trying to potions combo you, you can. I don't want to say deterministically, but you can realistically get enough confidence to kill her before second cycle if that's the game plan she's going for. She just won't be able to defend enough to make that happen. And if she's trying to play the tempo game and walk you down, you get more confidence because you're lower life than her a lot of the time. And so you're able to chain these confidence attacks, do the Cries of Encore thing, and make some really disgusting things happen. Obviously, it's still Verdance, but I think there's a lot of game plans there. And if they start going on to the tempo game plan versus you, you can just like side in AB5 and fatigue them if they go off the rampants, which, you know, is not always a strat you want to be taking, but it's a thing you can theoretically do because you're a Guardian. The Gravy matchup is somehow surprisingly decent. This is actually fact-checked and verified. You do enough damage if you find the right draw sequence to where you just kill Gravy. Like, you don't even play batter to a pulp in the deck anymore because you can just kill him. It's great. Gravy has a lot of hands that don't block. A lot of the cards don't block well. Even if they're on D-Reacts, they're not on, like, that many. They're on, like, 6 usually at most. And throwing, like, a 4 block and a 3 block at a card with confidence usually just is not enough to save him. Syndra is weird because, like, theoretically Guardian should be good into Syndra, but this deck has a lot of cards that don't block well, and you kind of need to be finding the right things in the draw sequence. If you don't find your Spinals, if you don't find your E-Faces, the matchup gets really hard, and Syndra can kill you before you have a chance to kind of dig and find them. And you don't really have time to set up auras and stuff like that to try and kill her without them, just because you will die because you're not blocking. However, I love this deck. I'm playing it at locals all the time now that PQ season's done. It's a great deck. It is so much fun. Apologies to my locals for taking almost every round at a time because I have to think so much with this deck. I promise I will get faster with it. But it's such a cool deck. And I won't waste any money because it costs 0 because I own the deck. I'm playing it currently. It is fully upgraded as I own it currently. I do think the Jensen versus Fang is just straight up worse, unfortunately. But I can cope. I can dream. Realistically, this number is lower, but I can dream. We're going to be playing it at locals, so maybe I'll get good enough on it to where I can cope enough to bring it to an event. But yeah, so that is the full slideshow I have. I'm not really making any decisions right now based off of this. This is more of an explanation of my thought process of what's going into considering decks for this next event. I think personally where I'm leaning towards right now is I really enjoy the gold decks right now. I really like Gravy and I really like Marlin. So I'm probably going to be spending a lot of time on Talishar, just getting in some reps, trying out these decks before I start buying in. But I'd also like to test all of these. Hopefully over the coming weeks, be able to just get some games in, figure out what I want to commit to, and then commit hard to it. And in the meantime, I will be running Pleiades and Kasai once I get the cards for hatchets. Yippee. Cilio is playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah. You know, I'll defer to Justin on this one, our local Cilio expert, but when I was playing that deck, it's like sometimes you're just going full tempo, you're doing crazy things, and I love that aspect of the deck when you're going like Gone in a Flash with an embodiment, play Discharge, play Gone in a Flash, play another instant, bounce it back, arsenal it, and you did like a 3-card, what, math in my head. You did like a 2-card 11 basically, and you got to Arsenal the Gone in a Flash because you get to keep it. It's just like that. That's just so insane. It's such a cool deck. But there's a lot of matchups where it's just, okay, I'm digging for combo. I found combo, I lay it on the table and I win. Or I did not find combo or do enough damage in the meantime and I lose. And that combined with the difficulty is just kind of putting me off of it in the short term. I think it'd be a cool deck to pick up, just have on the side. It's like one of those decks that I think would be really fun to just like Goldfish, bring to locals, play around with, just because it does really cool things. But I think for my strengths and what I look to get out of the decks, I just don't think it really plays to that as much, even if it is objectively a really cool deck. Yeah, so now that that's done, I probably should have done a YouTuber intro / ending. That's fine. Copium. Yeah, I think we're gonna try and play some games now. It's a little late. I had to start late because of my OBS situation, but I want to try and get a game in. So I think I'm gonna crack some gravy, just because I can. I don't actually have any real games on this deck, so this is gonna be interesting. We'll just go regular CC. And I'll just put it on learning a new hero, just so people don't expect to get some competitive practice out of this. Shout out to PVT Void for all the new Talishar and February features. This stuff is sick. Oh, it logged me out. Okay. Hello? Oh, it logged me out. Hello? Talishar, please. Let's try this again. Am I tripping? Is Talishar just dying? I just want to play games. I guess it's a crime to have fun now. Not that button. Okay, wait, we're back. I probably should not share my password. That would probably be wise of me. Damn, it's thinking. Is this because I'm streaming or like what's going on? Network error happened. Let me check the blue sky. I wonder if the new Metastat stuff broke it. Oh, we're back. Yeah, I think Talishar might have just crashed. Because there is exactly one game in progress currently. According to this, at least. Okay. Maybe we won't be playing games, I guess. Let me try this on my phone. Let me see if Talishar is really borked or not. Let's see. So I click this. Go to Talishar on mobile. Log in. Oh, okay. The Talishar is borked. That's great. It's not loading on my phone either. All right, so either I got blocked by my network security or Talishar is done for the day. All right, well, if that's the case, I guess I'll look at decks. Just spend a little while looking at decks that I'm considering. Let's pull up all the decks I was looking at. Did I not save the Eyeless list? I was looking at the list from Aurora from Flesh and Bad for the Eyeless Marlin. It's probably somewhere over here. All right, I'm just gonna go to their YouTube channel real quick and find the list. Flesh and Bad. Shout out Flesh and Bad. I think the live that they were discussing it on was this one. I want to say one of these lists. Yeah, this one. Wait, it says it is saved in my favorites. Is everything borked today? What's going on? Oh. I don't want to talk about it. Maybe it's a good thing that Tyler Show's borked and I can't play games. That's crazy. I cannot believe I... Well, that's something. Okay, back on track, back on track. So I think that I was looking at the Calling Hamburg list for Mario. Or I'll bring up the Blue Line Syndra deck that King of Piper played. Their list was great. We'll pull up Gravy Bone. We'll pull up. I don't think either of these are like realistic considerations. Same with KO. So I'm going to try them just for the sake of thoroughness, but I think these are the ones that I'm most interested in. And these are also the lists that I'm currently most interested in. So the Marlin lists are looking at stuff like Swell to answer Gravy. Some cool drop the anchor tech for Gravy as well. And in terms of cost to buy, I already own these. I own Dominion. I own Tunic. I would be buying Frail Codex, Hook, Premed, Gold, Loan Sharks, Gold the Tips, and stuff from here down, basically. For the Mario lists, all right, once again, I already own Ataya. I own CNCs. We're ignoring shelters. I just do not own those and refuse to buy them. So that's the state of that. Tunic, Codex. Yeah, so it's basically Codex down, basically, that I would need. Minus Saber, which is the thing I already have. Which does come out to the amount that I added up, roughly. It's a cool deck. Very fun deck. And we have these Blue Line Syndra lists, which, by the way, if people have not seen this list is so sick. They were cooking with this list, like hard cooking. This is what Syndra should look like, IMO. If there's a way to make Redline a little less consistent and good, I would love for Syndras to start playing this more because it's just cooler. You have to play a lot of the cool fealty finishers more so than the regular Redline list. You have to play D&D, which is just like one of the coolest cards that ever existed. You have to play Spreading Flames, but your daggers are insane. And you can do like Spreading Flame, Wrath of Retribution turn, so your daggers are swinging for 3. It's such a cool deck. Yeah, this deck's not actually that expensive. Maybe I should have put a slide in for this. But, like, realistically, I need like Warmongers and like E-Strikes and BSV. And I guess like Throw Daggers. I own everything else basically. So it's like, what? Let me do some quick math. Like 100, 150, 200, like 200, like probably like $250 between, like, I still have to get like a Claw, Vincerikai, Ancestral. I own Ignites. Yeah, it's probably like 250-ish bucks, which is not bad at all, especially considering this deck is good. And finally, Gravy. Not playing Ophidia. This is just getting cut for like, I don't remember what I was cutting it for. I think in my head I was cutting it for like one of the one-of blues. Just bringing up the number. I think I said like a second Fearless Confrontation or something was my plan. And I also don't know Mallet Justice because I refuse to buy it at its current price, or Quick Dodge Flexors. The idea was I'd replace this with like just a different head, probably Crown of Dominion for matchups where you need the gold early. And for an event, I can just beg my friends to let me borrow the charge flexors. Smile. But outside of that, it's again same thing where it's like hook, leyline, call to the grave, loan shark, dead threads, chums, conks, etc. Which I think is a good summation of kind of what I'm looking at right now. This is probably where I'll start when. Oh wait, are we back? Wait, we might be back. Hold on. Or I said I wanted to play gravy. Maybe we're back. Hold on. Oh, we're back. All right, we get in one gravy game for the night. One for the road. This doesn't have matchups. Oh well, it's fine. Syndra. Okay. Well, this is a quick dodge flexors matchup. If I remember correctly, you bring these, you bring this. Don't really want to bring those. What's the cut here again? It's probably this. Realistically, because I don't see myself ever really playing it. Seems like a good start. I have the Sunken Treasure, so I can maybe force them onto a weird situation with their daggers if they flick early. This hand looks really good. Okay. I mean, Loki, mill and ally, chart, tip. I just want to like, I want to keep the tip the bar keep. I think the rum is big. Is it? No, I think I just need to block out as much damage as I possibly can. No compass 4 blocks because I'm going to be drawing multiple anyway. I'd rather see what's on top after I draw up. This is really strange though. What are they going to do? Pop Flight Path? No, it's not even a Draconic attack. Like, it's just the end of the turn. Oh, cool. I didn't realize they added that so you can add people in game. Wait for other player to choose a reaction. What are we doing? Also, are they on 63? There shouldn't be anything to think about here. Did they just AFK? What are we doing here? Are we going to give them the 15-second countdown? 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, we're done. Okay, let's join this game. Send a message. Good luck. Have fun. Okay, and they left. My bad for wanting to play the game, I guess. All right. Throw up another lobby real quick. Pain. Marlon. I think I would love to go first. This is a matchup where I don't think we're going to fatigue. I think the Styriacs come in again. Probably the Swabbies. I think I'll cut this. Problem with doing this is I don't know anything about the ratios. And what's ever been the problem with bringing 63 on 60? Oh my god, is Talishar bugging out again? No, please. Man, I just want to play the game. Well, it's looking like tonight's not the night. All right, well, I mean, I guess I unstream there. Maybe it's a sign to go to bed and start tomorrow anew. Maybe that's what it is. Thanks all for watching. Love you all, and we'll see you on the next stream.